Today I'd like to talk about how I practice the Prelude from the first cello suite by Johann Sebastian Bach. This will give you hopefully some new ideas and inspiration and take your playing to the next level. So let's get started. Let's talk about structure. I see this movement as being in two large parts. The beginning to the fermata in the middle of bar 21 would be the first part, and then after the fermata till the end is the second part. The first part is essentially a broken chord progression, and I will show you how I think about this in a second. The second part, the second half of the movement, is essentially a cadenza with an underlying pedal point of D, which is obviously the dominant of G major. I play more freely and slightly faster right after the fermata, because a cadenza is a free composed piece of music, as if we're improvising. A cadenza also comes to show the performer's virtuosity. It is really interesting to note that there are 42 bars in this prelude, and so if each half is about 21 bars, and you can do the math, this is a symmetrical movement. Harmonic analysis. Okay guys, here's a disclaimer. Ever since my Juilliard days, I always struggled with the aspect of harmonically analyzing a piece. And unless you're a pianist or play another keyboard instrument, chances are that you too are not a natural at this. There are books that will give you a bar-by-bar analysis of all the suites, and I will add a link below to one of them titled Bach Cello Suites, written by Winold. Let's look at the first 4 bars. Here we have a simple progression that establishes the key of G major. Try and play that G differently every time. Maybe less. This is the most potent chord, if you mind. And then resolution. And we go on. As you can hear, there is an arc to this progression, and you may want to show the rise and fall of that arc, and then you may want to show that something new is happening at the beginning of bar 5, because here we're starting to move away from G major and towards D major. So bar 7 is already in the dominant of G, which is D major. In bar 10, we really feel that we are in D major. But bar 11, we have a surprise. The G sharp, that is part of a diminished 7th chord, and the resolution comes on bar 12. In bar 13, again, we have another 7th chord resolving on bar 14. I can keep talking about this all day, but you may say this is all very nice, but what does it mean to me in terms of performing this piece? Well, ideally, you need to have in your inner ear the underlying harmony of these chords to create the right color for the notes in the chord. Let me explain. If we take the first note in bar 13, which is the D sharp, it will be very helpful to imagine it resolving to E on the following bar. So, the E is obviously not written, but you should have it in your head. Sometimes I play this on the cello while practicing, just like that. Going on, we have reached a low point in terms of the range of the cello on the downbeat of bar 15, etc. I feel that this should also be a low point dynamically. You may disagree. Let me play this. to build bars 15, 16, 17, and 18 towards the return of G major on bar 19. And here we are in G major. The ringing of the open strings also adds to the full sound of this tonic key. I like to keep up this healthy sound from that point on to the fermata. So, a quick note about echo effects. I know some people who are not big fans because it can be tacky, predictable, any other words that come into mind. But I think that it can definitely be used sometimes, and we know that it was used in the baroque quite often. So even in the beginning, less or more. Okay, let's go on. After the fermata in bar 22, the feel is of a cadenza, improvisatory, as I said, and so I choose to go forward here. One of the telltale signs is that the beat is no longer steady. And while you play, it's interesting to try to count out loud 1, 2, 3, 4 from bar 33, for example, to bar 39. You will soon realize that we're no longer in 4/4. The bar line have moved. We are now starting a long climb towards the end of the piece. There are some ups and some downs, but the steady climb starts in bar 31 on the second beat. I would encourage you to practice this passage showing two distinct voices. The bottom voice is more interesting than the open A. When we go up, then obviously the changing part is the more interesting one. I'd like to use Anna Bylsma's metaphor of a train straining to reach the top of a mountain. So naturally, I feel that there is an expansion there. The last 4 bars, you'll notice, sound a lot like the beginning. I think of them in 2 large beats rather than in 4 beats, because if you see the bowing pattern here is different than in the beginnings. As you see, the first half of the bar is different bowing-wise than the second half of the bar. And again, the next bar, and all separate bowings. And the last time, this pattern repeats. For that reason, I like to think of these last few bars in big 2. And this brings me to the next topic of how fast should we play this prelude. I like to play it on the slower side. Bach wrote very clearly it's in 4/4, not 2/4. And the cello is not a violin, it's not a harpsichord. The response time of the strings is slower. And I just think that for me it works better this way. And again, you may disagree. Let's talk about the hierarchy of the bar. Notice this piece is in 4/4, it's not in 2/2, meaning the pacing, at least initially, is 4 beats per measure. In Baroque, there is a hierarchy to the bar, meaning the first beat is the strongest, The second is less. The third is strong again, but not as strong as the first beat. And the last beat is the weakest. Try to think about it when you play. So less, more again, less. Notice also that bars 39 to the end are in 2-2 and not in 4-4, as I mentioned before. Yeah, the last chord, I would suggest practicing with a good sustained bow near the bridge. Experiment with just playing the G separately to let it ring rather than the G and the B. So you can try this way. As you can hear, the G keeps ringing while you play the top two voices. There are different bowings that cellists use for the beginning of the prelude. For my latest recording, I chose to follow Anna Magdalena's copies as close as I could. But let me show you a couple of other possibilities. So Kellner's copy. Etc. It's very beautiful. When I started playing this prelude, I was 6. And I think for a beginner cellist, playing 8 notes per bow is really most comfortable and makes more sense. So or even 4 notes per bow. There are really so many ways of playing this piece that it's a great pleasure to dig deep and make your own decisions here. I hope you enjoyed this class. Thank you so much for watching, and please subscribe if you haven't done so. Bye.